A very good evening and welcome to a brand new edition of Newsfirst Primetime News, coming to you live and direct from our Newsfirst studios here in Colombo. Today is the 9th of September 2024. Bringing you the news this evening, I am Namal Rajapakse for the Newsfirst team.
And I'm Vik Singh, and here are your headlines for tonight.
Newsfirst headlines. Main sponsor.
A trusted place for your fixed deposit. Valuable FD, a symbol of stability.
Nisanka's ton guides Sri Lanka to first win in England after a decade.
And that is some fight back win as well. England were, remember, 261 for...
Ranil calls out Anrakumara Disanayake over economic policy.
මොකද්ද ජනතා විමුක්ති පෙරමුණ කියන්නේ? ඒගොල්ලෝ දන්නේ ඇත්ත වශයෙන්ම ඒගොල්ලෝ අපනයන ආර්ථිකය කියනවද? ආනයන කරන ආර්ථිකය යනවද කියලා. සිකුරාදා ඇහුවා අනුරකුමාර දිසානායක මගේ මිතුරගෙන් එයා කියන මිතුරා කියන්න එපා.
Anrakumara challenges Ranil for an open debate.
අපි එක තැන වාඩි වෙලා ඔයා අහන්න මම කියන්නම් මම අහන්නම් ඔයා කියන්න. මොකද කියන්නේ? ඒක නේද හොඳ? අනේ එහෙම විවාදයක් කරමු. ජනාධිපති රනිල් වික්‍රමසිංහ කියලා කියවන්න වෙන්නේ සැප්තැම්බර් 21 දක්වා විතරයි. ඊට පස්සේ හිටපු
State Minister Geeta Kumarasinghe joins Sajith Premadasa.
Geeta Kumarasinghe
SLPP goes to Election Commission citing threats to Namal and Mahinda.
Newsfirst headlines. Main sponsor.
A trusted place for your fixed deposit. Valuable FD, a symbol of stability.
We start off tonight's bulletin with a look at news from the world of sports. Sri Lanka secured a test victory against England in English soil for the first time in a decade earlier today, after defeating the hosts by 8 wickets in the third and final match of the series.
The encounter, played at the Kensington Oval in London, saw heroics from Pathum Nissanka in both of Sri Lanka's innings. Batting first, England racked up 325 runs, and in reply Sri Lanka were bundled up for 263 runs. However, Sri Lanka's paces managed to restrict England to 156 runs in the second innings, setting up a target of 219 for victory. Chasing the target of 219 runs, Sri Lanka started day 4 at 90 runs for the loss of 1 wicket. Opener Pathum Nissanka and Kusal Mendis stitched up a partnership of 69 runs for the second wicket. Taking Sri Lanka over the line were Pathum Nissanka and Angelo Matthews, who stitched up a healthy partnership of an unbeaten 111 runs for the third wicket. Sri Lanka reached the target with ease, losing just 2 wickets in the process. Pathum Nissanka carried his bat with 127 runs, recording his second test century, as Sri Lanka secured victory in just 40.3 overs. England won the 3-test series 2-1. Pathum Nissanka was adjudged the man of the match, while England batter Joe Root was named man of the series. This was the second test Sri Lanka played at the London Kensington Oval. Sri Lanka last played a test match at the Kensington Oval 26 years back under the leadership of Arjuna Ranatunga in 1988. Sri Lanka won the game comfortably by 10 wickets. Following the victory achieved in 2014 in Leeds, the Sri Lankan cricket team has not recorded a win against England in Test cricket.
Walker Turk, the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights, pointed out that despite mass protests 2 years ago demanding democratic reforms and an end to corruption and abuse of power, many of these demands remain unfulfilled. He made these remarks at the 57th session of the UN Human Rights Council in Geneva.
Sri Lanka stands at an important crossroads. 2 years have passed since mass protests demanded democratic reforms, an end to corruption and the abuse of power. Today, despite promises of a new beginning, those demands remain largely unfulfilled. And while 15 years have passed since the end of the devastating civil war, victims and their families are still waiting for truth, for justice and for reparation. Meanwhile, for many people, the economic situation is precarious. The poverty rate doubled between 2021 and 2023, and more households are forced to choose between food or healthcare, between education or energy. Sri Lanka is also approaching presidential and parliamentary elections later this year, and the newly elected administration must commit to the concrete transformational changes needed to ensure accountability, justice and reconciliation. Those in power must protect fully the rights to freedom of expression, association and peaceful assembly prior, during and after the upcoming elections. And the international community must support this transformation. It is important for Sri Lanka's creditors to provide the government with the fiscal space necessary to realize all human rights, including economic, social and cultural rights. Reports of persistent harassment, surveillance and intimidation of journalists, civil society actors, victims and human rights defenders are unacceptable. Meanwhile, abuses by police and security forces are prevalent, and we continue to receive concerning allegations of arbitrary detention and torture. There has also been limited progress in the criminal investigation into the 2019 Easter Sunday bombings. And today, people allegedly responsible for gross violations continue to be appointed to senior positions. Going forward, Sri Lanka must pursue an inclusive national vision that addresses the root causes of the conflict, one that undertakes fundamental constitutional, legal and institutional reforms to strengthen democracy and advance accountability and reconciliation. The government must implement important, significant security sector reform, including holding to account those individuals implicated in serious violations. And it must take immediate steps to prevent human rights violations. My office is not here to point the finger, but to lend a hand. We are reflecting what Sri Lankans from all communities are telling us. They want change, and my office is ready to support Sri Lanka on that journey.
Permanent representative of Sri Lanka to the United Nations in Geneva, speaking at the UNHRC, rejected the recent report by the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights. Expressing surprise at the recent report's commentary on macroeconomic and financial issues, Aruna Tilaka stated that such matters fall under the sovereign purview of Sri Lanka's parliament and are beyond the mandated sphere of human rights.
Transitioning from a debt-driven economic crisis towards stabilization and inclusive growth involves budgetary restrictions which cause unfortunate short-term adverse impacts on various segments of society, particularly the vulnerable. This is an unavoidable consequence of the financial crisis and the stringent measures required for economic recovery, a reality not unique to Sri Lanka. Strengthening the economy is vital to the enjoyment of economic and social rights as well as the right to development. In parallel with economic recovery, the government continues to take steps to heal past wounds and to address the residual issues affecting civilians from all communities arising from decades of conflict. The report steps far out of its mandated sphere of human rights to comment on macroeconomics as well as financial and budgetary issues under sovereign parliamentary purview. I wish to once again emphasize Sri Lanka's rejection of Resolution 51/1 and the external evidence gathering mechanism established within the OHCHR.
We call on the government to take immediate and credible steps to strengthen accountability and reconciliation efforts, address all violations committed during and after the civil war, and put an end to impunity. Ahead of the presidential elections, we call on repealing or amending existing and proposed laws that restrict civic space and fundamental freedoms, as these freedoms are cornerstones of democracy and need special protection.
We welcome efforts underway to prepare for fair and democratic presidential elections on September 21st and stand ready to support the process through an EU election observation mission. The EU encourages Sri Lanka to uphold freedom of opinion and expression, provide full space for civil society engagement, and advance accountability and reconciliation. We wish the country peaceful, democratic elections.
We reiterate the need to promote and protect the rights to freedom of expression and peaceful assembly, including during memorialisation events. As Sri Lanka approaches elections, we urge the government to re-engage with the Human Rights Council process, to build a conducive environment for meaningful reconciliations and transitional justice, and to ensure mechanisms are independent, inclusive, transparent, and address the priorities of affected communities. We remain ready to support Sri Lanka in addressing these concerns.
My delegation takes note of the points raised by the delegation of Sri Lanka as the concerned country and wishes them a successful presidential election. Considering the problems of Sri Lanka as a developing country, in conquering its both political and economic difficulties, we appreciate the positive economic developments in this country, mainly in reduction of inflation and positive economic growth rate. We also highly value the tireless efforts of government of Sri Lanka for reconciliation, reparation and national unity with consideration of its national interests.
We welcome signs of economic recovery and encourage the government to integrate greater transparency into its focus on anti-corruption and long-term sustainable development. Long-standing impunity for human rights abuses remains an obstacle to reconciliation. Transitional justice institutions and reconciliation initiatives that are victim-centered, independent, inclusive, impartial, and transparent restore trust in institutions and minimize the risk of renewed future conflict. We call upon the Sri Lankan government to take tangible steps that foster an environment conducive to meaningful reconciliation.
Sri Lanka decides! Sri Lanka decides.
State Minister of Women and Child Affairs Geetha Kumarasinghe sided with the Samagi Jana Balawegaya early today in support of its presidential candidate Sajith Premadasa.
A campaign rally organized to ensure the victory of the SJB presidential candidate Sajith Premadasa was held in Kandy this evening.
Sri Lanka
State Minister Geetha Kumarasinghe was seen attending the rally in Kandy.
Sananmale Kumarasinghe Batiriyata Samagi Jana Balawegayata Samagi Jana Sandhanayata Samagi Jana Sandhanayata Geetha Kumarasinghe Batiriyata Geetha Kumarasinghe Batiriyata
මම එක දෙයක් දන්නවා අපේ රටේ දරුවන් වෙනුවෙන් කාන්තාවන් වෙනුවෙන් තවමත්
There are many aspirations yet to be fulfilled for our children and women of our nation, yet there was no one to fulfill those. This is the time where the protection of children and women must be secured. During the last presidential election, Sajith Premadasa spoke out regarding period poverty, but many laughed at him, yet no one succeeded in achieving that. Why were they unable to provide it? We need a president who will support the people, and he will undoubtedly be elected the president. Someone asked me if I came here knowing of Sajith Premadasa's victory. I said yes. No one can dispute it. He will win without a doubt. All of you must actively participate in this fight over the next 12 days. Constantly mention why you chose Sajith in social settings. Let others hear their sentiments. We need to create a formidable front like children of the same mother to ensure the victory of Sajith Premadasa over the next 12 days. Will you join me by standing from your seats and cheering for Sajith Premadasa's victory?
I wish to remind you all that the SJB is the only united party in this race. What will you vote for on the 21st? The telephone. I will promise our leader. We will secure victory in the Kandy district with a majority of 150,000 votes.
We will save all 22 million of you from despair. Remember the brotherly duo of Ranil Wickramasinghe and Anurakumara Dissanayake who destroyed, defeated and set fire to our nation. It is an ideal duo. What is their conspiracy? Let's defeat Sajith at any cost. They have already agreed to tell each other's voters to vote for the other candidate through their preference vote. That is the Ranil Wickramasinghe Anura Dissanayake marriage. I will tell you now, the preference vote will not matter. The SJB, the telephone, will win with the first vote alone. Sri Lanka's people will not be hoodwinked by infamous political deals and conspiracies this time around. The sitting president is contesting for the election, yet he is unable to ensure a continuous supply of passports for those expecting to fly out of the country or provide visa to those intending to enter the country. How can they solve the issues of the nation without being able to address passport and visa queues? I wish to question the president. Why can't you formulate a process to provide passports and visa without delay instead of striking deals with Anura Dissanayake? This is a government which cannot supply passports. Imagine the destruction if the future of this country is entrusted to them. A majority have banded together to defeat the conspiracy of Ranil Wickremesinghe and Anura Dissanayake. Passport queues and visa queues formed because of fraudulent transactions. I promise you, we will expose that scam and bring those who are responsible before the law as soon as we come to power following the 21st.
නීතිය හමුවට ගෙන එනවාමයි කියන එක මම මේ අවස්ථාවේ ප්‍රකාශ කරනවා.
Independent presidential candidate Ranil Wickremesinghe stated that Anura Dissanayake, the presidential candidate from the National People's Power, has yet to provide a satisfactory response regarding his party's economic policy.
A public rally to muster support for independent presidential candidate Ranil Wickremesinghe took place in Hanguranketa.
We are facing a crucial presidential election. In this election, you are not voting to appoint a local government member, a provincial councillor, a member of parliament or a minister. You are voting to appoint the executive president of this country. In short, the leader of this nation is chosen by the ordinary people of this country. We can handle setbacks, but this election cannot be lost. Because if we lose, it is not just Ranil who loses, but the entire country.
පැරදුනොත් පැරදෙන්නේ රනිල් නෙවෙයි රට මතක තියාගන්න.
We are here to solve your problems, not to create winning leaders. It doesn't matter to us who wins. If you vote for leaders without experience, like the one who won with 6.9 million votes, remember that it will be a grave mistake. We need to appoint a leader who can answer everyone's questions, regardless of party affiliation, at this critical time.
මට ඕන මේක තවත් රුපියල ශක්තිමත් කරන්න. ඩොලරයකට තියෙන ප්‍රමාණය තවත් ශක්තිමත් කරන්න. ශක්තිමත් කරනකොට වහාම
I want to strengthen the rupee further, increasing its value against the dollar. When this happens, prices will decrease immediately. That's why I seek your vote. What are others saying? What is the JVP stance? Do they support an export economy or an import economy? I have asked this question, but no answer has been given so far. I also asked my friend Anura Dissanayake, who told me not to call him a friend. So I will ask the former Minister of Agriculture Anura Dissanayake why he hasn't answered yet. Are they advocating for an export economy for this country or an import economy? Why are they afraid to answer this? I have reviewed their budget proposals. If implemented, the rupee could fall to 400 to 425 per dollar, with inflation reaching 25%. Why? I consulted some experts to analyze their budget and we were surprised by the results. If their economic plan is followed, the rupee will drop and interest rates will soar. If the NPP says that they have a plan, that plan is the end. If implemented, the rupee will depreciate to 400 against the dollar and interest rates will soar to 25%. When aid is lost due to breached conditions, we see the rupee fall to 500 per dollar. If you disagree, I challenge former Agriculture Minister Anura Dissanayake to show us his budget, prove that their plan is viable. Why haven't they spoken up until now? They only criticize others because they lack a solid program. So, at this critical time, I urge you to think about your future. Consider your future and make an informed decision on the 21st of September for the gas cylinder. Otherwise, there may be no gas cylinders and no future.
September 21 වෙනිදා gas cylinder කතර ගහන්න. නැත්තම් gas cylinder එකකුත් නැහැ. අනාගතයකුත් නැහැ කියලා මගේ වචන ස්වල්පය මම අවසන් කරනවා.
Presidential candidate of the National People's Power, Anura Dissanayake, has issued a challenge to independent presidential candidate Ranil Wickremesinghe, urging him to participate in an open debate instead of making scattered statements. Dissanayake made this call during a rally in Anamaduwa.
This morning, the National People's Power held another rally in their series of public events for the presidential election, this time in Anamaduwa.
දැන් රනිල් වික්‍රමසිංහගේ පරාජය නියතයි. ඔයගොල්ලෝ හිතන රනිල් දිනයි කියලා හිතනවද? ඔන්න දිනිල්.
Ranil Wickremesinghe's defeat is now certain. Do they really think Ranil will win? Does Ranil have any support in the villages? No, Ranil is definitely defeated. He has started revealing his true colours one by one. He even said, my friend Anura, he is now trying to keep things calm. We won't be fooled. He will have to remember the power of his opponent. Recently he posed some questions and wanted me to answer them. Before diving into his deep political and economic questions, I will ask him some simple ones. If he passes this preliminary test, I will answer his questions. It is simple. What is simple? Ranil Wickremesinghe called the Rajapakse camp thieves. Did he mean it? Was it a lie? Then Dinesh Gunawardena called Ranil a thief. These two were classmates at Royal College. Did he mean it? Was it a lie? These are very simple questions. I am not going to ask you complex economic questions right now. First, tell him this. You called them thieves and they called you a thief. Does this mean like in a village playhouse, friends were divided into two sides and played a game of cops and robbers? Answer that. Next, he has spent a lot of public money appointing his advisors. One advisor is Akila Viraj. Now millions of public money have been spent on him. Why? To provide consultation to Ranil. What is one piece of advice he took from Akila Viraj? Share one piece of advice with the country. Don't we deserve to know? Tell the country one piece of advice you obtained from Sagala. If you pass this preliminary test, we will answer the other questions. Isn't that fair? Serious questions cannot be answered from stage to stage like this. Therefore, Ranil Wickremesinghe, let's have a very good open conversation. We are ready to not only answer all your questions one by one, but also to question you. He asks in Valimada, I answer in Anamaduwa. Does that work? No, it doesn't. Let's sit in one place. You ask, I will answer. I ask, you answer. What do you say? Isn't that good? Let's have such a debate. Ranil Wickremesinghe is under stress. He definitely has to step down by the 21st September. The pain and confusion it has caused him are evident. That is why he is confused. Or will he call me friend? So we have to sympathize him. President Ranil Wickremesinghe will only be read until the 21st September. After that, it will be ex-president.
ඒ නිසා අපිට තියෙන්නේ එතුමා ගැන අනුකම්පා කරන්න. මොකද ජනාධිපති රනිල් වික්‍රමසිංහ කියලා කියවන්න වෙන්නේ සැප්තැම්බර් 21 දක්වා විතරයි. ඊට පස්සේ හිටපු
SLPP's presidential candidate Namal Rajapakse says that the policies implemented within his government will be tailored to meet the needs of the general public.
දිලිවම අපි ඔබට මුන්නාසට වාක්‍යමකින් කියනවා අපි හදන ආණ්ඩුවක් තුල මේ මාතෘ භූමියට ගැළපෙන ප්‍රතිපත්ති වගේම මහ පොළව නැවත වතාවක්.
We wish to state very clearly and responsibly that policies implemented within our government is best suited for this land. There are issues in the Mahavali zones. We are aware that parents in these areas face problems, including land issues, concerns about lack of clarity and difficulties with enrolling their children to schools. We have identified these issues and it is not just about recognition. My dear parents, we have solutions for them. We firmly believe that addressing the problems in the Mahavali zones of this country requires direct government intervention. Today, we are contesting the election with a commitment to bring in industries to every electoral district in Sri Lanka where there are currently none. This is what we want to remind you. Will you take the responsibility to help us win the election? I say to all of you with responsibility that you must take the responsibility for my victory.
Member of Parliament of the Samagi Janabalawege Mujibur Rahman revealed that there are reports indicating that approximately 80 key ministers and members of Parliament are preparing to leave the country after the 21st of September. Initially, those ministers were on Ranil Wickremesinghe's stage. Who is there now? There were people who used to be media spokespersons. Now there is none. They have all come to understand Ranil Wickremesinghe's true nature. With the information we have, they are very regretful about their decisions. They have lost the SLPP and realized they cannot continue with Ranil Wickremesinghe. Today, they are a group of people caught between two worlds. That's why many of them will cast their vote and leave the country. Around 80 of them have already secured the visa. They now understand that Ranil Wickremesinghe is not their protector. It has become clear to them that Ranil Wickremesinghe is using them to climb over their shoulders and work towards Anura Kumara's victory.
Wanted. A leader. A Sri Lankan with the courage to lead a resplendent nation and her people into an exciting future. A Sri Lankan with intelligence and grace. A leader with a clean heart and a clean record. A leader in love with Sri Lanka. A leader this nation deserves. The presidential election 2024. Sri Lanka, you decide. Newsfirst, we report.
A trusted place for your fixed deposit. Valuable FD, a symbol of stability.
Member of Parliament representing the National People's Power Vijith Herath called a special press conference today. During the press briefing, he elaborated on the matter that has arisen of the issuance of passports.
The government recently decided to introduce an e-passport system. While 3 companies submitted tenders, the contract was awarded to the Just-in-Time Technologies, a company owned by Ajith Warnakula-Surya, a close associate of Ranil Wickremesinghe. Despite winning the contract, the new company failed to provide the promised e-passports since June, causing a nationwide shortage. Against this backdrop, the minister had presented a cabinet paper last week to place an order with the same entity to provide a stock of machine-readable passports. It is headlined with the following: urgent procurement of MRPs. This letter was sent to the President's office. According to the cabinet paper, the proposal is to obtain 48-page passports compared to the previously issued 64-page versions, marking a reduction in the number of pages. After the company responsible for the tender agreed to provide these passports, the cabinet is expected to grant approval. Minister Susil Premajayantha said that a decision has been made to provide 750,000 passports through the same company that handled the process previously, ensuring timely issuance. But that has not happened. According to standard procedures, whenever a country changes its passport, it is required to notify 192 countries around the world. These notifications are sent through the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to inform the immigration authorities of those nations about the changes. This process can take a significant amount of time as responses from foreign countries need to be received. As a result, delays in issuing the new passports are inevitable. Despite efforts by the new company, the waiting lines for passports are expected to extend for several months. The next concern lies in the cost of issuing the new 48-page passport. According to the cabinet paper, the cost of printing this passport without additional features such as photo identification is $4.97. That means the cost per page is $0.1035 per page, roughly 31 rupees per page. The previously issued 64-page passports were provided at a cost of $5.89, which translates to approximately $0.092 per page. Given the current economic crisis, it is becoming increasingly difficult to live in the country, but people are unable to leave either. Allow the previous supply to handle this immediately. Only then will the people receive some relief.
Public Security Minister Tran Alis responded to these allegations.
2007 13 15 18 20 22 23 මිලියන 11ක් පාස්පෝර්ට් අරන් තියෙනවා කිසිම ටෙන්ඩර් එකක් අවුල්.
Since 2007, 11 million passports have been issued without calling for any tender using the same institution. Repeat orders were placed periodically until the passports ran out. Since 2018, each passport has cost between $5.89 and $8.89. When the passports were nearly depleted this time, I insisted on calling for a worldwide tender instead of reordering. The tender was called and the contract was awarded on the 14th of May, with delivery expected by the end of November. These passports were supposed to arrive as our stock ran out, but delays occurred. We spoke to Epic, the company that has been supplying these passports, and requested 100,000 passports. They responded that their minimum order is 500,000, which we don't need because new passports are coming. Ordering 500,000 passports would cost 894 million rupees, which is unnecessary. Are we going to proceed with 894 million rupees and place another order, or import new e-passports with a segment without the chip? We are requesting for early delivery of passports without the chip from the batch of 5 million that was already ordered. We also faced issues with online appointments, where some individuals used multiple SIM cards to book all slots and then sold them for 45,000 rupees each. We addressed this by involving the police to manage the queues. On day 1, there was a long queue until 2 or 3. Thereafter, the queues were not witnessed after 10 or 11. I assume that some were even paid to do certain things. Regarding the new passport, our minimum order is 500,000, but I agreed to see the delivery schedule. The delivery period is now set after the arrival of the new passports. I am open to having an open debate with anyone about this visa and passport issue. Vijith Herath, my friend, has lied about this matter. He claims that Ajit Varnakulasurya or someone else must be a local agent. The tender was awarded to Tran, a French company, which is the largest passport issuer in the world, serving countries like Singapore and the UK. We are genuinely surprised by the competitive price we received.
UK වලටයි හැමතැනටම passport issue කරන්නේ ඒගොල්ලෝ. ලෝකේ තියෙන ලොකුම ලොකු company එකක්. අපිට ඇත්තට number 1 අපිට ඇත්තට පුදුමයි අපිට ඒ price එක හම්බු වෙච්ච එක.
The Lawyers Collective urges the voting public to keep in mind the vital need to safeguard democracy, the rule of law and the independence of the judiciary when exercising their franchise at the presidential election.
The Lawyers Collective notes that the preservation of the rule of law is key to the well-being of the nation and its people and is an integral part of building a sustainable and thriving economy, a democratic and just social order and accountable governance. It added that over the years, Sri Lanka has witnessed a steady decline in the rule of law and democratic values and norms, which has directly affected the economic well-being of the nation and impacted the daily lives of people. The Lawyers Collective added that the decline in the rule of law has resulted in economic mismanagement, large-scale bribery and corruption, impunity, gross human rights abuse and violence against persons and property. It added that several laws that undermine human rights, democracy and decision-making by those most affected have been enacted. It noted that if Sri Lanka is to achieve economic and social stability, the strengthening of its institutions including Parliament, the judiciary, the public service including the police and other independent institutions is essential. So too is addressing the issue of corruption and waste of public resources.
Presidential candidate of the National People's Power, Kumar Dissanayake, says that he will give maximum contribution under his government for the development of art and culture. This was mentioned at the occasion of unveiling the art and culture policy of the National People's Power.
A group of prominent artists participated in the convention held last evening, headed by Kumar Dissanayake. At this event, the art culture policy of the NPP was launched.
යලි මහා සමස්ත සමාජයේ රසඥතාවය යුතු සමාජයක් බවට පත් කිරීම සඳහා
The necessary steps are being taken one by one in order to transform the society into a more refined one. I do not agree with the guarantee that everything will be done at once. We are aware of the extent of our country's economy. I can assure you that any doubts or concerns you may have about your artistic creations in any situation will be fully addressed by a society built by the NPP, which is dedicated to eradicate such issues. You can keep on writing. You can continue creating. We will be your supporting partner. Let us fly together to win this endeavor.
මෙය සහමුලින්ම පරිපූර්ණත්වයට පත් ප්‍රතිපත්තියක්.
Do not consider this a perfect policy. The NPP always indicates us that it is capable of further development. It is a very flexible system of ideas that we can develop, and you can offer further development and critical ideas to it. A butterfly has arrived. It is a good omen. It may be a symbol of hope.
බලාපොරොත්තුවේ සමන්ලයක් විය හැකි.
මෙතෙක් සිදුවේ යම් දේශපාලන පක්ෂයක ජයග්‍රහණය වෙනුවෙන් දරදිය.
So far what has happened is that some artists in this country who were driven by their support for a certain political party have ended up receiving some form of favour from that politician which they now benefit from. This has had no impact on the field of art or culture for them. We too have not been artists who sought favours from rulers. Just as you are involved in uncorrupt politics, we are committed to representing the role of an untainted artist.
When the country collapses, artists are the first to fall, Comrade Anura, because people initially focus on their basic needs such as eating, drinking and dressing. Art comes only after those. When those needs are lacking, artists become helpless. I am not lying. Look into my eyes. I am speaking from the heart. The people present here are esteemed artists who possess no fear or doubts and who hold the civil rights of citizens. They are all experienced and respected individuals. Everyone here is dedicated to uplifting people. We are all committed to that purpose. We are all the same in this regard, Brother Anura. You are a person of great discipline. We must make it clear that we cannot allow harm to come to our country. We must state this explicitly.
අපි පාවෙන ලෝකේ ඇවිදින චාරිකාවේ දවසක පාවේදෝ ආසේ අද අල්ලන්න ආස ගමනේ.
Presidential candidates and their representatives met with the Election Commission today.
The meeting held this morning was attended by several presidential candidates and representatives of other candidates. The discussions focused on the future activities of the presidential election.
We discussed the next steps to be taken if no presidential candidate secures more than 50% of the vote. We emphasized that promoting only a few of the 38 candidates is a complete violation of election rules. According to information from intelligence agencies, I was informed on Saturday that there is a threat to the life of our candidate Namal Rajapakse and a similar threat to the party leader Mahinda Rajapakse. The chairman of the Election Commission informed us of this situation by letter yesterday, and the Commission's attention was drawn to this matter today as well.
In more local news, a man who attempted to drive away a wild elephant that had entered the Beragama area of Ambalanthota tragically lost his life after being attacked by the elephant. He leaves behind 3 children.
This is where a tragic incident occurred this morning. A wild elephant went on a rampage after encroaching into the village and entered a nearby farmland, seemingly intent on attacking villagers. Upul Priyantha, concerned for the safety of everyone in the village, tried to chase the elephant away but tragically lost his life in the attempt.
අලිය පා ගන්න ඇවිල්ලා ඔඩේ ගත්ත පාර මගේ ඇඟේ වැදීගෙන එහෙම අලියා හැරුණා මං කෑ ගහනකොට බයට මං කෑ ගැහුවා උදේ මේ එළිය වැටිලා උදේ 6ත් පහු වෙලා 6:00 විතර ටයිම් එක එනකොට.
Wildlife officials arrived and spoke with the villagers, offering some advice. The body of 48-year-old Upul, who died in the elephant-human conflict, has been taken to the Hambantota General Hospital. He leaves behind 3 children aged 6, 9 and 11.
Who's a trusted place for your fixed deposit? Valuable FD, a symbol of stability.
And that's the wrap of Primetime News for tonight.
Thank you for watching.
Good night.